What is going on, New York Giants fans? Hit Squad back at it with another video and with another episode of the Big Blue Topic. Y'all already know who we got. We got Big Blue Corner to the right of me, GOS on the bottom right underneath, and we're joined by Coach Ed Gladney over from Coach Ed Gladney's Amazing World of Sports. His link will be in the description below in the video. Go subscribe to him. He makes excellent content. How are y'all boys feeling today? How's everyone's day before we jump into the topics?
Excellent, man. Excellent. Can't complain, man. Cannot complain.
My day is going well, thanks.
Awesome.
Same. Good.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that everyone's doing good. I see that we got some people in the chat. Mark the Blue Giant, what is going on? Thank you for stopping by. DMAC Warrior, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you guys. Um, let's jump right into this, man. So in my honest opinion, I think that Xavier McKinney is primed to have a breakout season this year. I know that last year he led our teams in interceptions. I mean, this dude was a baller for us. He had that nice pick six against the Raiders. And I think that with how Wink uses his defense, especially when you look at the secondary, I mean, I think that this could be a player that could really thrive. Do y'all think that Xavier McKinney going into this season under a brand new scheme, could be that X factor that we need in our secondary?
Personally, for me, yes, I think he's definitely going to be an X factor, and I think he's in a great position to step his game up. Wing system, will definitely get the pressure, and quarterbacks are going to be getting that ball out quickly. And if he plays his keys right, he's going to be in prime position to attack the ball and make some great plays.
I mean, I think he's going to be the anchor back there, in that backfield. He's going to be literally from sideline to sideline. I mean, he did an excellent job last year, leading the team in interceptions. And I mean, just look what he did in the Raiders game last year. All right, just
Yeah,
look at that. That game
dominated.
to me is picture perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And if Wink can use him in that same exact role and just up his game even more by him being in being that anchor in the backfield, I I, I see positives all over the place, man. Nothing but positives.
Absolutely.
I actually feel like he could have a little bit of a slow start, kind of like we saw last year. Because I mean, what kind of role is he going to play? See, he's always kind of baffled me because coming out of Alabama, I thought he'd be more of a box safety, and then they kind of just tossed him out there as a deep quarter, protect over the top. Kind of seems like most of the time. So I could see him starting out a little slow. It's going to be a lot more man coverage and all that. Well, he'll probably have just over the top zone. This is tricky though because we don't know how we're going to use him. Maybe Wink thinks more of them, coming down the box half the time more than, you know, I don't know. I just think it could be a little bit of adjustment period. Maybe we see, if I had to make a prediction, I'd say probably first half of the season, maybe we see him a little bit of a slow start, just finding a new role. But yeah,
Yeah,
maybe the
I
second
mean,
half of
I
the
can see
season,
that.
So it's kind of hard not knowing what these players' roles are going to be, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, I mean, I think that when you look at, the last two seasons for X-Men, I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, he'll start off slow and then he kind of picks things up. And I mean, you look at last year, I mean, you kind of saw that a little bit. And then, he turned into an X factor on our defense. I mean, he led our team with interceptions at 5. And I think that with how Wink, uses these players, I mean, I see what you're saying. He could start off slow, but I think that once he gets his bearings underneath him in this scheme, I mean, watch out, man. I mean, seriously, watch out. And that personally, that excites me. It really does excite me. And obviously, we got to see how whoever's next to him, whether that's Julian Love, how are they going to pair up with him? I mean, I want to see this kid all over the field. I just think he's so versatile.
Yeah, the corner they brought in too that we drafted in the fourth round. What's his name? The name's
Flock.
yeah, Cordell Flott. See, I kind of thought he was going to be. I think he's going to be using like third and long, passing situations. But LSU kind of threw him back here from watching his tape in some of that deep safety stuff. So
Absolutely.
Well,
I
don't
do think
forget.
that could be a first year role for Flott as well to be back there. Maybe that frees up McKinney to kind of move all around the field. So it's just all
Well,
speculation at this point. But
well, don't forget we picked up Yusuf Corker as well, and I think he's a safety as well. So, I
yeah,
Yeah.
mean,
I think he's a box guy. Yeah, but
He's a box
got to make the
safety.
team. Got to make
true,
the
that's
team.
true.
Yeah,
But I mean, I can see him making the team as far as being that third safety that I mean we desperately need because all we have really as of right now is McKinney and Julian Love. So, with Corker, making the team, that can that can at least alleviate a lot of pressure as far as having McKinney out there all the time, give him a rest, gets these guys coached up as far as Corker's concerned. Cordell Flott, I mean, honestly, the guy has to put on at least about 10 pounds of muscle. I mean, the kid is he's tall, but he's just very, very lanky,
Hmm.
And if he could put on 10 pounds of muscle, I think he'll be a good slot corner, maybe in either outside corner. You know, other than that, he can probably play that safety role as well. But for me, I'm seeing it as McKinney, Julian Love, and Corker, and Cordell Flott maybe playing both. Maybe both roles depending on the scheme and what Wink wants to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And you bring up an interesting player in Corker. Um, I was actually shocked that he wasn't drafted, in my opinion. I was a little shocked. Hopefully, he can make the roster for the Giants. And I think that if he can, I mean, I think maybe not next year, but maybe the year after. I mean, he could be a player that gets starting time, depending on what we do with Love or what we do with next year's draft. But for right now, I mean, I agree with you. I think that Flott needs to, put on some more weight. I know he said he was going to about 10 pounds, so we'll see how that plays out. But in my honest opinion, I mean, I think that if you can use X Man all over through the fields, I mean, whether you want to put him in the slot, having him going against the tight end, whether you want to put him in the box, I mean, I just feel like he's one of those players that, I think that he could be a captain on this team. I think that he could have a Pro Bowl season for us. I'll be honest, I'll even take that stretch. I think that, he could have an all pro season if all things go well. But I see we got some more people in here. Jaden the champ, what is going on? Jaden Alves, Neymar, what is going on? Appreciate you guys stopping by. Neymar says, hit squad 11-6. Let's see, man. I mean, I would be more than happy with, 8 to 9 wins. I got us penciled in at 10. But I mean, hey, if we get 11 wins, I mean, I think the whole fan base would be ecstatic if we can reach that because we haven't been able to reach that in quite some time. So I'd be thrilled, man. Jaden, appreciate you stopping by. DMAC Warrior says X Man could lead our teams in interceptions. I think so too, man. I think so too. I mean, I think that Dory he'll get his fair share. Maybe we'll see Aaron Robinson or Darnay Holmes on some deflections. But I think that X Man could lead our team in interceptions. So I definitely agree with you there. Mark the Blue Giant, he says McKinney will start slow, but he'll pick up towards the middle of the season as usual. Yeah, I mean, like GOS said, I mean, I could see that. I could see him starting off slow, and maybe towards the middle of the season, like you're saying, Mark. We see flashes, if not the same production that we saw last year. Um, I think that he could have a very good year for us, man. Everything has to go right, but I think that he's one of those players that he's smart, he's dependable. He has all the traits that you want in a player, especially at the safety position. Um, and I think that Wink is very happy to have a player like McKinney on his defense. A player that he could use all over the place. Um, Neymar says Daniel Jones will succeed. I think so too, man. I definitely think so. We got to see how this O line looks, but I think that Daniel Jones could definitely succeed. Um, so Jaden asked, maybe Flott can play safety. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, man. I don't think that they want him at the safety position. I'd like to see how he looks outside. Once he gains some more weight and puts on some more muscle. I'd like to see how he looks outside. What do y'all think of this?
I like it
Well,
for year one because I don't want to see him in the slot full time or in the first second rundowns because I just when I watch the tape he seems like he's a willing tackler, but I just don't want him to beat his body up right out of the gate. So if you could just use him on pure passing downs, if you want to throw him back there like a deep quarter of the field safety, he was really good at it at LSU from the games that I watched. So I just feels like there's going to be a little, probably the first quarter of the season, going to be a little bit of flux. If I'm Wink, I'm going to try everybody. I'm going to try everybody outside, inside. I'm going to move people around until we can find out who fits in what role here. So, it's going to be a little guessing game here to start the season would be my prediction on that. But I'd love him to throw him back there with McKinney on like third and longs. I think
I
they
can
got the speed over the top to shut down a lot of them deeper stuff.
now I can see Flood playing in the deep at the safety because he does a very good job of dissecting plays and coming down and attacking. He's a good tackler because he does attack the hip the way he's properly trained. But he also, flips his hips very well when he's trying to get his head around to eye the quarterback. So, playing in the deep, as a deep safety, I could see that, just to get that into his repertoire. But eventually, yes, I'm with you. Eventually, I could see him making his living as a cornerback, whether it's inside or on the outside. That's to be determined. But I could definitely see him more as a safety. And the other safety that we keep forgetting about is Belton. I think that's his name. We've
Dame Belton?
Yeah, Dane Belton.
Yes.
I think he's going to fit in and help the defensive backfield too.
Hey, coach, I got a question for you. When I watched him, he kind of slid down a lot into like a money backer role. You remember that when
Mm-hmm.
Betcher was here? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think that's something we might see get revived? That old money backer? I think he'd
Well,
do good
yeah,
against tight ends, in my
yeah. I
opinion.
mean, to me, whether it's a money backer in the zone scheme, whether he's on the weak side, that's fine. He's good in the box. He's good in run support. He's a definite hitter. So I could definitely see that, and with Wink, he likes playing the single high or the cover three. So that means you're going to need somebody down in the box. So I could definitely see it, and I think he will. Belton would do well there, um, um, primarily there, basically.
I mean, I agree with you, Coach. I agree with you, GOS. So, I mean, how would you put it out there as far as on the field? Because the way I'm looking at it is, I see Aaron Robinson out there on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
on the outside with
Mm-hmm.
him and Adoree Jackson. Now, as far as that nickel,
Mm-hmm.
it's a toss up right there because you got uh Darnay Holmes, you got Rodarius Williams,
Mm-hmm.
uh Cordell. Well, as you said, Cordell Flott,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to see him start as far as being that nickel inside
Mm-hmm.
slot corner. I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
see him start there than, if anything, have him and Aaron Robinson battle it out for that outside corner. Dane Belton, I honestly, I would have to agree with you guys there. I can see him a little bit in that role that we had Jabril Peppers in.
Mm-hmm.
Coming down in the
Exactly.
box and
Mm-hmm.
literally like if it, blitzing off the edge,
Mm-hmm.
coming up the middle, playing the run. I mean, he's bigger than Jabril Peppers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a plus in his category. So I'm just looking forward to seeing exactly what it is that Wink does and what
Mm-hmm.
kind of schemes he can literally draw up for these young guys to literally just ball out and show their true potential. I'm looking forward to it.
I am
Well, I
too.
think Belton could be. Oh, sorry, buddy. What were you saying?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say I view Belton as more early on in his career, at least at this point, more of a coverage guy, like somebody you could bring down there and nickel dime packages and take away a tight end, or at least give a tight end some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
From the tape I watched him, I really didn't like a lot of his run stuffing ability. I
Well,
don't know.
I followed them because I'm a Big Ten fan, and there are games that he came in and he fit well. He definitely fit well. fit in, coming in schematically. Yes, he can, play well in coverage, more in the zone as opposed to man to man. Quick guys, quick twitch guys will definitely give him a problem. But yeah, tight ends, he can ride the scene with him, with most tight ends in man to man. So, but in run support, I felt he was fairly, did fairly well. Playing against the Michigans, the Wisconsins, because those are run heavy teams, and he fit well in there.
Well, he was shooting gaps and all that. It just seemed like
Mm-hmm.
when it was clean in front of him, he did really good. He hit his
Yeah.
gaps, and from what
Mm-hmm.
I saw, it's just when blockers got up on him,
Well,
that's where the trouble kind of
that's
kicked in.
most defensive backs, unless you just have that elite speed where you can slip under it. But yeah, if you get a big guy out in front of you with most defensive backs, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I agree
That is
with that.
true.
Yep.
So, but yeah, when it came, if he was, dealing with an equally sized running back, a lead blocker, or he could get leverage on the tight end. He held his own.
I mean, do you guys see Wink using, Xavier McKinney in a man type coverage role? Like literally body, if whether it be a dime package, having him coming down and covering because and I'm not saying
Good
that he
question.
can't do it. I'm not saying that he
Mm-hmm.
can't do it.
He
It's
did it at
just that
Alabama
Mm-hmm.
exactly he
a
did it at
lot.
Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
but my thing is we've seen McKinney just literally out there just patrolling. Okay, literally just patrolling. And he's in almost pretty much, in good spots pretty much all the time, whether it be a pass breakup or INT. So my question to you guys is could Wink use him
Mm-hmm.
as a coverage,
Mm-hmm.
say coverage safety in a, whether it be zone or man to man? Do you see that? Do you see him using him as that? And would he feel comfortable in that role?
Occasionally, yeah. But now last year was a different system, so yeah, we have to see what Wink is going to do. Playing with his new toys, but I could definitely see him on occasion coming down, getting into coverage. If you start him high, roll him down, bring it. It just gives the quarterback a different look. That would be a smart move. To do that. Yes, he plays high. He has good range, sideline to sideline. But if he comes down and he's playing hook curl, or he's shooting to the flats, or he's playing a robber coverage, or even taking a man straight up, yeah, it just makes the offense have to prepare for something else.
Yeah,
I mean, I did.
yeah. Mix it up, little robber roll. Yeah, he'd be
Mm-hmm.
pretty good at that, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up is because in the same Raiders game, now, I might be mistaken, but there was one of his interceptions. He actually came down and intercepted the ball. I'm not sure if it was the Raiders game. It may have been another one, but he
It was the
literally
Raiders
came
game.
down.
He picked it off, right? He had the
Yeah,
flat.
yeah. He
Yeah,
had
he
two
Yeah,
had
he
the
He
had the
was
behind.
flat.
flat.
covering the flat.
He had the
Yeah,
flat, the
so
pick six, and then he had the other one where he got on the sideline and he squeezed it, and he was just right in perfect position. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, that particular one. I mean, he literally read
Mm-hmm.
Derek
Mm-hmm.
Carr's eyes. He read it perfectly. But that one particular pick six, you know, that's one of the times when I seen him actually come down and
Mm-hmm.
play that flat area. And I mean, he jumped it perfectly and got the pick six. So that's the reason why I asked that question is do you see Wink using him
Mm-hmm.
like that
Mm-hmm.
more instead of that just center field position out there?
More, I. It depends on who's going to be rolling back, because right now he's the one that's more. He's shown that he's able to handle the sideline to sideline. Are
Yep.
are we going to rely on Julian Love, or is it Corker? Is it Belton? Because if you're rolling him down, someone has to take his place. Unless
Exactly.
unless we're going cover
That's true.
zero. Now if he's
Exactly.
going cover zero, that's a different story. But if you're just bringing him down into the flat to give a different look, somebody has to roll up top to take his place basically. So is it more often? I don't know. Because you know I see from what he's shown so far, even though it was a different system last year, he plays well in the back going sideline to sideline, and that's kind of like an Ed Reed type of a position. Going sideline to sideline, making plays on the ball, and from the little bit I've seen, he does well at that position. So
Yeah, I agree
I
with you,
agree with
man.
Coach completely there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I do.
he's shown he can be effective in that role. I mean, why mix it up now? Don't if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. So and
Absolutely.
we saw Julian Love in that Rams game in 2020 when he
mm-hmm,
had that. Yeah, we
mm-hmm,
lost that game because of Julian Love and coverage. So
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
and that's,
I
I
exactly.
agree.
mean, like I said, to piggyback off that, if Wings running cover zero, I would rather trust McKinney out there,
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm,
in case, one of those cornerbacks do get beat and needs help. He's there. I trust McKinney more than maybe a Love or Dane Belton,
mm-hmm,
but if we're running, man under Tampa, whatever the case may be, if you're willing to have him come down to pick up maybe a running back that's popping out, depending on whatever the offense is running at that point, again, it all depends on what Wink sees
mm-hmm.
Xavier McKinney as for
Hmm.
whatever
Very true.
particular scheme that he has for that particular play, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And it's going to be very interesting to see how some of these players are used. And I think that Wink is one of those coaches that's going to get the most out of his players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw that over in Baltimore. And again, I think, McKinney could be one of those players that has a fantastic year for the New York Giants. I know a lot of people talk about Aziz, which I believe DMAC left a question for GOS. We'll get to that in a sec. Um, I mean, I'm just really excited to see how this defense is going to look
Mm-hmm.
under Wink Martindale, and especially when you see how he uses his defense and the blitz schemes that he draws up. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting, and I think that this defense might be better than what people may give it credit for. I see that we got Jeff here, man. Thank you for stopping by, Super Taj. Thank you for stopping by, man. So DMAC Warrior asked, GOS, do you think Aziz can get double digit sacks this year? This is a good question, man. I know we talk about Kayvon and how dominant that he can potentially be for us this year. This is a player I'm really, really excited for on this defensive line, man. GOS, he asked you, so I'm gonna let you go first. Coach, we'll have you go afterwards, and Big Blue Corner.
well, listen, I don't think it's any secret. Edge rushers, you normally see them start to break out in that second, third year. So, and he had a fantastic rookie season. Honestly, though, I think it's going to come down to the health of everybody across the line. Though, if Kayvon can stay healthy, if Dex and Leonard Williams can stay healthy, I think he's got a shot. I mean, he's definitely making improvements to his body, or maybe that's just for more for his long term. But it's tricky. It's really tricky with edge rushers. But I think he's got a chance. I mean, we saw his rookie year, and you don't listen. How many? I think Strahan had two his rookie season. Oh, how many
Yeah,
OC had
yeah,
two? So really, it's a second, third year breakout kind of thing with these edge rushers. It takes time. They don't come out with pass rush moves. A million of them. You just don't see it very often. And them guys go at the top of the draft. So he has that knee issue. Let's see how that goes. I kind of dug into it when we drafted him. Supposedly, that's something that kind of starts showing up like around year 6 to 8. So it looks like he's going to have some time. Maybe we'll at least get a one contract out of him or something. But I mean, it's absolutely if Kayvon just comes in and he clicks, and the guys stay healthy on the inside. And listen, Wink is going to scheme overloads. He's going to curl people around. He's going to send people around. He's going to, he's just going to give you opportunities to have free rushes throughout the game. So absolutely, he could. Am I going to predict it? I think probably 8 or 9 is a pretty good number to sit on if he stays healthy all year. But absolutely could. It would not shock me if he had 11, 12 sacks next year.
Can he? Yes. And the reason why I think he can and he's in a good position to do it is offensively, teams are going to identify who are the greatest risks. And right now, even though most people will say Kayvon is going to be Leonard Williams, number one, because he's a proven commodity. Then it's going to go to Kayvon, which is going to open up things for Aziz. So, is he going to have great opportunities? Yes. Can I see him getting double digits sacks? Yeah, I can. I can definitely do it. And then with the system, because you never know who's coming, who's not coming. Is a cornerback coming? Is a linebacker coming? So it's going to force offensive linemen to keep eyes on second level and then possibly overlook Aziz on certain situations, or do they release him to a running back who he can just overpower, because he's definitely bulked up. So, that's going to play a big factor. So, can I see him easily? Well, not easily. Can I see him getting double digits? Yes. 10 to 12? Yeah, I can see that. But if it's 8 to 10, that won't surprise me either. But can he? Yeah, I definitely can see it.
I mean, I'm in the same boat as you and you coach and you and GOS as well. My take on it is as far as him being able to get 8 to 9, I'm sorry, double digit sacks. Yeah, there's a good chance he can. But I think a lot of it has to do with what Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence does in the middle and whoever else they have on that defensive line. That is really going to dictate a lot as far as what looks Aziz gets, what looks Kayvon gets, because the way Wink schemes up these blitzes, they could be coming from anywhere. So you don't be surprised. You may see one of these cornerbacks or even McKinney, if he's coming down to Love, whoever it may be, they may have 5 to 8 sacks. You never know.
Hmm.
So my thing
It's
is
very
this.
true.
It all depends on what that front four is doing, especially with Leonard Williams, especially with Dexter Lawrence. If those guys are getting off the ball and that offensive line is literally in flux because everybody's coming. They don't know who to pick up. They don't know who to block. And as long as Wink is scheming these different exotic blitzes, somehow, some way, no matter what, someone's going to have double digit sacks. Now, it could be a toss up as to who. Could be Leonard Williams for all we know, because if Kayvon and Aziz are getting so much attention, Leonard Williams one on one, it's hard to stop him. So
Yeah.
it's going to all depend on what those guys do up front. If Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence and whoever else is there are getting so much attention, I can see Aziz getting double digits. I can see Kayvon possibly getting double digits as well. Who knows? But I guess everything just depends on that scheme, and I can't wait to see it. I literally can't wait to see. I mean, who's going to be the sack leader? Take a pick of that front, that front for 4 or 5 right there. It's a toss up at this point.
Well,
Yeah,
if I'm an
absolutely.
offensive coordinator, I don't care who's on the edge. I am not letting Leonard Williams beat me.
Exactly.
I am
Exactly.
doubling Leonard Williams because listen, he is way too long, way too strong to be putting a one-on-one guard on him. It just don't work the way he's built.
And if you're
So
doubling, if you're
I my center and guard is going to be on Leonard Williams. I'll live with the stuff with Kayvon. I'll keep my running backs and in the backfield all day or something. But I ain't gonna mess with Leonard Williams. I
that
don't care.
that right there opens it up for everyone else, because if you're
Absolutely.
putting two on Leonard Williams, then that means the other guys definitely have the opportunity to go out there and eat. And then on top of that, if I'm Wink, I'm seeing, okay, you're going to double him, you're going to constantly double him. Then I'm going to bring somebody else. Even if I run a fire zone, whatever the case may be, hell, I'll even drop Leonard Williams into coverage, because now you just took two bodies to block him. And what are they going to do? They're going to be standing there. So that means you're going to leave 3 guys, possibly 4 guys, to possibly block another 5 guys, maybe 6 guys coming from somewhere else. So and that's we all know that's what Wink does. He'll mix it up. He'll drop defensive linemen into coverage and bring defensive backs, linebackers, whatever it is. So, and that's why it's very intriguing, with the scheme, with the possible movement, because it will mess up an offensive line's blocking scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm in the same boat as all of y'all. I mean, I think it's possible that he can. Um, I mean, I think it's really just going to come down to, is Leo going to be getting double teams? I think going forward, teams are going to learn that they might have to double team Kayvon. So one of these players are going to get, a one-on-one matchup. Is that going to be Dexter Lawrence, who some fans believe that he's primed to have a good season for us? Is it going to be Azeez Ojulari? I mean, I could see him having 10 sacks. I could see him even having 12. I think he'll personally have around 9 is where I have him at, just due to the fact I think that a lot of these players are going to be stacking up sacks just due to the fact that Leo commands that double team. Dexter Lawrence is a big dude on your defensive line. And then you still got Aziz, who, not for nothing, I loved Lorenzo Carter while he was here. I think Lorenzo has potential. We saw flashes of it. But I mean, for you to get 8 sacks with Lorenzo Carter on the opposite side of you, what is that going to look like with Kayvon Thibodeau on the opposite side of you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously. I mean, and again, I think it's just it's possible, but I want to be safe with this, so I'm gonna say 9. I think that he'll have around 9 sacks. Very good question, D Mac. Appreciate you asking that. Mark the Blue Giants asked, did you guys hear about Ellerson getting starting reps in OTAs? This was actually really interesting, and I appreciate you asking this, Mark, because I saw some people in the Twitter sphere talking about this. So Ellerson Smith was getting some starting reps in OTAs. You're hearing that he's looking really good. Personally, last year I know that there was some fans that really thought that he could be a player that could be, paired with Aziz going forward. He has tangibles, he has length. I thought he needed to put on a little bit more muscle. But is it possible at this point that maybe he beats out Quincy Roche for that third defensive end?
Yeah.
You know what? Well, all right, go ahead, JOS. I'll let you answer first.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I was to mold the perfect outside rushing linebacker, on a 3-4, it would be pretty damn similar to Ellerson Smith. So, he is just kind of green at this point. Let's see what they can develop for some pass rushing moves. But man, that length and speed he's the complete package. But it takes, like I was saying earlier, for these pass rushing, these edge rushers, it takes time. This is, so, and also onto the point about him starting, I read something that Kayvon's a little dinged up. So that just might be,
Yeah, I mean,
Kayvon's
I
not getting
saw that
some
too.
reps because he's, can't, they're just taking it easy right now. There's no sense in pushing these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I
I
like
mean,
Harrison Smith.
I'll be honest with you. I could see it. I mean, just I think that he kind of fits the same mold as Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau, where to your point, GOS. I mean, if you want to if you want to mold your perfect linebacker or outside linebacker, I mean, that's a good mold. At least compared to Quincy Roche, who, not for nothing, he was fairly solid for us last year. He came up big in that Raiders game with the forced fumble off Derek Carr, or the strip sack. But again, to your point, GOS, Kayvon, he was redshirted. They're saying that it's not anything major, and they expect him to start when training camp comes around. So that definitely could be it. But I mean, I'm very intrigued to see, where does he fall in terms of the depth chart, because again, there's tangibles with this kid that you want at that position, especially him having length, and hopefully you would assume that he put on more muscle, considering he didn't really play a lot last year for us.
Now, here's a question, Coach. How many, at least defensive ends or edge rushers, can they have on a 53 man as far as, for a starting game? How many can they carry?
Can they carry? I would
Yeah.
say 5, maybe 6, depending on if they're on specials.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing with me. I mean, realistically, based on the type of defense we're running, 3-4, I'm going to say 6, because I also look at going back to when in '07 and 11, the NASCAR package, that just helps add into the movement. You can have those 4 guys sitting out, all 4 of them, Roche, Ellison Smith, Tibbs, and Aziz. You can have all 4 of them lining up there, even standing up in an amoeba defense type of look, and you can drop all 4 of them into coverage and bring somebody else. You
Yeah.
can you can
Very
you
true.
can overload one side. So can I see 5, 6 edge rushers? Yeah, I could. I could
I could
definitely
even
see
see
that.
seven. Remember Cam Brown? He's our gunner.
Yeah,
He's maybe the
true. I
biggest gunner in the NFL. He's awesome. He's going to be
I
listed as an
forgot
edge.
about.
Maybe Carter Coughlin makes a team,
Yeah, I
and
I
forgot
maybe
mean,
they
about
list him as an edge.
Cam. That's right. Yeah.
yep. I mean, the reason why I asked that question is because I will honestly say I do not see O'Shane Zimenez making this team. I
Mm-mm.
believe wholeheartedly that he'll get cut. And the reason why I said is because you know what? If you have Aziz and you got Thibodeau there, you're gonna need someone to back up both of those guys. And I wanted to see Ellison Smith last year. Tall,
Mm-hmm.
rangy. I mean, the guy's got length. And granted, you know, he was very, very raw and you had to work with him. And whether or not that those, outside linebacker coaches actually worked with him and got him coached up, that remains to be seen. And whatever is being done now with the linebacker coaching now, if they can get that kid coached up, I mean, he has got literally. He reminds me of just I mean not JPP a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
length,
I could see that.
and
Mm-hmm.
it literally if he can just piece it together, he could be very dominant. I mean, can you imagine Aziz,
Mm.
Kayvon Thibodeau, Ellison Smith, and I love Quincy Roche. Okay, that guy, he can possibly play on the inside as well. But and also the young kid, Tamon Fox from UNC. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you want to talk about a good NASCAR defense there, coach? There you go,
Mm-hmm.
right there. I mean,
Don't
and
forget about
whoever
Jihad
else.
Ward. Also,
Exactly.
he's a big
Yep.
dude. You can
But
throw
I
him
think,
up in the middle, blitz him
yep,
across
he
the
can.
line.
I believe he can play on the line as well, on the inside defensive line as well.
I'm looking at
But
the
I mean,
roster. Go ahead.
ju-
I'm sorry.
just just I mean I'm just lost for words as far as what I can see this defense and how it played out, how it will play out.
I'm
Yeah,
looking at the
definitely.
roster right now, and I don't see Fox on there, but there's 14 because everyone is lumped together as linebackers. So that's
Yep.
inside and outside, and there's 14 of them. So, and oh, I forgot about Lalos too.
Nico Lalos. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there's plenty of skills, So could it be seven? Yeah, now that you say it, yeah, I could look at possibly seven. And where do you actually put Darian Beavers? Is he because he can play both inside and outside? So,
I think they're going to play him
uh,
at middle. That'd be my
yeah,
guess.
no,
Yeah.
I see him more as a middle, but at Cincinnati, he did line up as on the edge,
Yep.
so
True.
Yes, he
and
did.
he did come off of that edge, and he was effective there. So the one thing that they've always talked about is versatility. So, you know, um, Carter Coughlin has played both inside outside. Tay Crowder's inside. Justin Hilliard is
I'll tell you,
he
don't sleep on him either. He is a
no.
freak athlete, man.
I remember him at O State, so that's what I'm trying to remember. I think he can play both. So again, the versatility, seven. Yeah, I could see seven. Ideally on a 53. I would based on the scheme and it also goes into numbers and what you do with specials and then also the offensive line. How many are you going to carry on the offensive line? You
Yeah.
know, so and that right now is always what affects other positions, the offensive line. So, but seven, yeah, I could see it.
I
Yeah,
mean, when
I could definitely see that too.
you say it like that, because Beavers, as you say, he can play that outside role,
Mm-hmm.
but he can. I want to see him between him and McFadden. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that lined up next to Blake
Blake
Martinez.
Martinez, yeah.
You know, they both had. They both have good ability. I think the issue with them is if you get if you put them on a wide receiver that's pretty much kind of
Mm-hmm.
twitchy,
Mm-hmm.
you know them being able to flip their hips is they're
Mm-hmm.
real stiff. But do it with a tight end, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they can cover a tight end. It's those twitchy wide receivers that you're gonna have to be worrisome with, where
Exactly.
those guys are. So that's the reason why I asked as far as how many defensive ends can they carry,
See.
going into a game, because of you want to be able to, as you said, with that versatility, have
Mm-hmm.
Beavers can come down and play defensive end as well and be an edge rusher, you can actually drop him back out in coverage depending on what the scheme is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
That was
I
my
look at it as
concern.
a package kind of deal. Like you got your early down package guys, and then
Mm-hmm.
your pass rushing package guys. So that's kind of how I've been viewing it. Because if you paid close attention to who they brought in, who they signed, you can see they are building different
Mm-hmm.
packages for this
Mm-hmm.
defense. Like Jelly,
Mm-hmm.
Jihad Ward. You're probably gonna see a lot of Jihad Ward and obvious running downs because he's not much of getting after the quarterback, but
Definitely.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with you there. Hey, I see we got some more people that stopped by. Mac, the Giants fan, what is going on?
It's good, Matt.
Christopher
What's up, Mac?
Tony, thank you for stopping by, brother. Hope all is well. And Christopher Tony asked a very good question, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. He says, "Hey guys, which undrafted free agents make it on the Giants' 53-man roster?" That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm.
I will tell you who I would like to see join. I would
All
love
right,
to
let's
see
hear.
that.
Let's talk about this. Let's hear
I,
this.
I would love to see that 6'8" tight end make this team, man. Okay, I would love to see it. And literally just, okay, you know what? You're down in the red zone. Just let them have it. Okay, just let them run in there, toss it up, and let them go after it. But I would love to see that guy make the team as far as UDFA. The other guy, well, what is it? Not it's not Beavers, is it?
No, Beavers
No,
is.
not Beavers. Tamon
Beavers was
Fox.
fifth round.
Yeah, Beavers are fifth round. Tamon Fox, I would like to see. And also, and this might come as a surprise. The kid out of Michigan, Chris
Christopher
Hinton. Chris
Hilton.
Hinton.
Hinton. Mm-hmm.
Chris Hinton.
Mhm.
Now, I was surprised that he didn't get drafted, at least, possibly late round. So I was surprised he was a UDFA. So he's he's got a lot of work to do, but I would
Mm-hmm.
like to, if you could stash him on the practice squad, hopefully nobody picks him up and, develop him. He could be a good defensive lineman for us as well. So for me, Akins, Tamon Fox, and Chris Hinton, at
Yeah,
least for starters.
I mean, for me personally, I would definitely want Yusef Corker.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Tamon Fox. Another one personally that I would want would be Jabari Ellis from South Carolina, defensive tackle. Um, and last, I mean, I agree with you with Austin Allen out of Nebraska. That would be a nice one. Um, but to be real, I mean, to end it off, what about Darion Evans from LSU? I mean, he has 30, I think it's like 32 inches for arm length, and he's 6'2". And considering that, we need some more depth at the cornerback position, I mean, give the kid a shot, see what he has. I think that we need as much help in our secondary as possible, or as much depth as we could possibly get at that position. So those are my players that I would look at.
I'm looking at Corker, Hinton, and Corbin, Jay Sean Corbin. I don't know why. I just think he's going to beat out some of the other running backs that were signed,
Yep.
and I think he's going to definitely step in there and end up being the third running back. I think that he good size, very productive, and good speed. He can do a lot. He's very versatile and played at FSU. We all know is a well known school, so he played good competition. So he's primed for it. So I think he's definitely going to make it.
Now, can he
I agree. I think
block?
the running back has the best chance out of all of them, the Corbin there. It's
Hmm.
going to be a tough battle between him and Antonio Williams.
Yep.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. So
Yes.
I think he'll at least be, a practice squad. Honestly, at this point, undrafted free agents, I'll say none of them. I mean, I just can't pencil one of them into the 53-man roster. There's so
If
many
you
wide
want,
receivers, so many linebackers.
if
Maybe
you're
the
gonna
safety.
go,
I think the running back Corbin and the safety Corker, they have the two best
hmm
chance, and Austin Allen. But honestly, I'll just say none. The team is pretty loaded with depth all around, and you're going to want to keep an extra couple of receivers and linebackers and special teamers. Now, if one of these guys can come in and show out in the special teams, then then they got a much better chance. But at this point, I'll say none of them.
Eh,
Interesting.
Sorry.
That's interesting.
very,
No,
and
no.
that is interesting.
I just think Antonio Williams, like he's more of the inside thumper, third down. I just think he'll
Yeah.
slightly beat out Corbin, and he'd just be nice to have on the practice squad because somebody probably would snag Williams if you throw him on there.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
is he a
he
good?
knows he knows the system too. So yeah, I mean, good point.
Yep.
Now is those was it Corbin? You said is
Mm-hmm.
he a good blocking running back? Can he block?
Well, he can be developed.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's all right. I've seen games where he did his thing, and then there's games where he looked totally lost. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but again, that's the one thing with most rookie running backs coming into the league, that the one thing that they have to work on is their blocking.
Yep.
Very very few come in unless you were a fullback, a dedicated fullback, or a H back, and you were built to do that. But most of them, yeah, they have to. I mean, look at Saquon. Saquon, even to this day, he's okay, but he's not the greatest.
Exactly.
yeah.
If
I'm
he could carve,
definitely.
if Corbin could carve out a role and
Mm-hmm.
kick return or something like that, it'd give him a lot better chance to make the team. But we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And I definitely want to transition to our next segment. Uh, Darius Slayton, man. I mean, fans are, getting on this man again, which I know a lot of fans are fed up with this kid in the same way that they were fed up with Evan Ingram. I mean, he had in my opinion, a very good rookie season for where we drafted him. And I think as the years have gone, I think that he's played up to where he was drafted. A fifth round selection. Um, I think he has to get his drops under control. It seems that him and DJ have developed quite the chemistry through the years. But fans are getting on him because he's dropping passes in OTAs. He's made a couple plays, but it's being reported that he's having more drops than those stellar plays. I mean, so that poses the question. I understand that any of these players can go down with injury. You have Galladay, who always deals with the hip or a hamstring. Tony, whether it's an ankle or anything like that, a hamstring. I mean, that's a possibility. Shep is coming off an ACL. I mean, uh, is this a player that you think the Giants could potentially look to cut? Maybe they go to get the secondary and they want to attack that in free agency and they need some money. Is that a player that they say, okay, this is $2.5 million that we can get back and we could put that to another position of need, and we get one of these undrafted players, undrafted free agents, and elevate them to the 53-man roster? Or do you think the Giants should keep him?
For me, I think if he's going to be cut, it's going to be like I think he's going to be one of the last to be cut, um, because they're just not going to give up on him unless, like you said, it's a money thing. If it's the money thing, then I think he'll probably end up being the first to go. But when you look at the guys behind him, um, or on the same page with him, I mean, they're going to be fighting for a spot. And like you said, the drops are going to be a big thing. If he's consistently dropping the ball, then yeah, he's going to go. Right now,
Yeah,
OTAs, I don't put too much into that right now. I'd rather, just it's the same thing with the DJ question. I'd rather see him make his mistakes now than come game time. And if he improves, because what's the old saying? Each day improve. So it's is he inconsistent? One day good, one day bad, one day good, 2 days bad. Then yeah, but if he's okay, he just had a drop here or there. I'm not ready to give up on him today.
yeah,
I'd want to wait until training camp and let everyone else fight for a position. Because who was he with fighting? Bachman, Board, Richie James, Colin Johnson, Austin
Robert
Kroll,
Foster.
Robert
yeah.
Forster, David Stills, uh, Travis Tol. I can't even say his name. Tolvanen. I mean, that's who he's fighting right now. Unless you have a undrafted free agent, that's also in the mix. So it just comes down to that. I mean, Does he? Because he has the speed. He can take the top over. He can take the top off. And it changes the dynamic. And like you said, him and Danny have always had a good rapport together. So I the last 2 years, I'm sorry, the system just didn't do him justice.
No.
It just didn't. He's the type of guy you send deep. Little things like that, as opposed to working him to short to intermediate all the time. So for me right now, it's too early for me to say he's ready. I'm ready to cut him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
I
I agree
I
mean,
mean,
completely. Unless he's like fourth or fifth in your depth chart, and he's battling out with Robert Foster. But listen, we've seen Slayton put together good stretches of games,
Mm-hmm.
contribute to wins
Mm-hmm.
here, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously the chemistry with Daniel Jones. But listen, for everybody who wants to bash him, who's led this team in touchdowns every damn year since he's been here?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're going
Great
to get a
insane.
point.
drop here or there, but
Great point.
he leads the team in touchdowns every year, and that's with the putrid system we've seen the last 2 years. His
Mm-hmm.
rookie year, he didn't start out the season right. He comes in late, and I think he's
Mm-hmm.
caught what 7 touchdowns, and we
Yeah.
didn't see a lot of drops in that period, but the scheme was at least consistent at that point in his
Exactly.
rookie season.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
just to give up on him is silly. For $2 million, I mean, what are you going to get for $2 million? Somebody's leftovers they dumped off a team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's true.
I just think Daniel Jones make or break season. It's good to have him there for this at least this season.
And
And I'm there with you.
don't forget, Shep is also starting the season. He might not start the regular season, so you're going to need that experience too.
Right. And you can never have too much. Look, last year, that one game, Dallas, we lost four wide receivers in one game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can never have too many wide receivers. I do like Richie James. I think he fits
Mm-hmm.
Dable's scheme really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think
Mm-hmm.
Robert Foster could push him a little bit. I just don't think Foster is quite as good as on Slayton's level. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah, so
I agree
I
with
think
you.
he could move on as a possibility, but I would just like to keep him for Daniel Jones make or break year. That's it.
Yeah, and I definitely want to throw some numbers at y'all because Slayton, I'm there. I actually agree with you guys to the point where I don't think it would even be smart to cut this kid. I mean, I just don't. I understand it from a cap perspective and wanted to put that money elsewhere. But again, when you look at the players that he's up against on this roster, especially when it comes down to health, I mean, he's been fairly solid for us. Um, Actually, we got ourselves a little guest. What is going on, Jeff? How are you doing, brother?
Hit Squad, Coach, GOS, Rodney, how are you all doing tonight?
hey, how's it going, Jeff?
What's up,
Hey, I'm
Jeff?
doing
How are
So
you,
good,
bro?
man.
You got a lot of energy there, bro.
Doing good, man.
I
Well,
like it. I like
we
it.
brought up we brought up one of the most hated names to be brought up in New York Giants convo, and that's Darius Slayton. But Hit Squad, you just threw it out there before. Injuries. Darius
Yeah.
Slayton as a wide receiver 5, as a situational deep threat, is it really the worst thing in the world to keep this kid on the roster where he's not playing a majority of the downs like he has been in the past, where you have to trust him more as a target in crucial games like he has been in the past, where this time, assuming Galladay, Tony, Shepard, if he starts the season, Robinson are all going to be ahead of him on the depth chart, Slayton can be that guy that could take the top off the defense. And Slayton has had times where he somehow gets open deep. Nobody's around him in coverage. It's just can he come down and get the ball when it's thrown to him? And
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of this guy because he still has potential on this team. And you also made a good point before too, Hit Squad. Look who he's competing with. I mean, I like Richie James because of the scheme fit, like you guys mentioned before. I think he fits the scheme perfectly. Robert Foster, another young guy with that speed, as well as can take the top off the defense. But if it came down to who I would want on the field, if it came down to it between Slayton and all those other guys, I'm taking Darius Slayton. I'm sorry. I might get blasted for that, but I mean, Slayton, I still think could be a good player on this team if he's not used to the amount of a role like he was in the past, assuming our other wide receivers can stay healthy. And that's the problem is, can those other guys stay healthy enough so where Slayton doesn't have to play the amount of snaps he had to before and he has to be relied on too much, but that's where the mistakes usually happen.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. And when you look at Darius Slayton, I mean, he's had a fairly solid career so far in the NFL. Like in 2019, 48 receptions, 740 yards, 8 touchdowns. Now, I think we're all in agreement that this system didn't do any of our wide receivers any
Mm-mm.
justice. They didn't help out any of our wide receivers. But in 2020, he has 50 receptions for 751 yards and 3 touchdowns. And last year, obviously, he has a down season. But I still think that there's room to grow with this kid. I think that if he can just work on, not dropping the ball. He spoke about that in an interview today. With the New York Giants. And if you guys haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend go watching it. He talks about Wan'Dale as well. But I mean, I can't give up on this kid yet. Um, to me, there's a lot to like with this kid. He has the speed, he has the chemistry with DJ, which is it's nice because I mean, it didn't look like DJ and Galladay had chemistry last year. I mean, Tony and DJ, they're gonna build that chemistry. But to your guys' credit, I mean, this system didn't do any of these players any favors last year. And for him to get
Hey, Hit Squad.
750 yards with Judge, man, that says a lot to me. What's up, GOS?
Every time there was an offsides, where did that ball go to? When you know what I mean, on a free play.
Darius Slayton, yeah,
You got
Slayton,
a
yeah.
point there. You got a
Great
point
point,
there,
GOS.
JOS.
yeah.
And he's on the
I,
last year of his rookie deal too. So I mean, he's playing for a contract. So I mean, you could just let him walk if he doesn't get the job done. But it doesn't hurt to have a guy with his skill set on the team as a wide receiver 4 or 5. It's not really that big of a
Exactly.
deal. So don't just keep him on the team because he's probably your best option in terms of that deep threat. Like take the
yeah,
top of the defense.
and one thing to consider too is that if he does have a fairly good season for the New York Giants, even if it's similar to 2020 and 2019 where he had over 700 yards, I think with how the wide receiver market is going right now, he is going to get a contract. Maybe obviously not as big as the top tier wide receivers, but maybe it's enough for the Giants to get a comp pick if they don't decide to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why
Good
I'm
point.
highlighting DMAC Warriors comment here. He has Slayton could be used as good draft capital. Maybe the Bears. I mean, in my opinion, got a bunch of number twos, a lot of number threes over there. So I mean, could that be a possibility? Sure, DMAC. But if I'm the Giants, I mean, I can't guarantee that Galladay is going to play every game this year. I can't guarantee the same with Tony. We don't know how Shep is going to be coming off of this. I got little to no faith in Colin Johnson. I know CJ Board also plays that, special teams factor,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah, I
the
like
roster.
Board.
I like Board too, but again, I think that if we're talking about chemistry, player potential, honestly, scheme fit, you gotta keep Darius Slayton. I mean, if it's about cap, I love Nick Gates, but he doesn't even know if he's gonna come back this season.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
could be a contract that you cut and you save yourself some money. And you already had depth at the offensive line position, especially on the inside. So
And
again, keep Slayton, like you said, Jeff, as your number 5, even maybe as your number 4. I think you're in good hands.
And also, if you think about it too, I mean, like we mentioned, he's playing for a contract, and at the same time, not only him, but everybody in that wide receiver room, not named Wan'Dale Robinson, they're playing for an opportunity to be with the New York Giants going into 2023. And yes, I'm including Kadarius Toney. None of these players are guaranteed to be on this roster next year. Shep's a free agent; he could walk. Slayton's a free agent; he could walk. Galladay, big time cut candidate if he doesn't get it done. Tony, if they don't like the way he prepares, he could be
That's
gone.
it.
So maybe Slayton has a good bless you. Maybe Slayton has a decent year. Maybe you bring him back on a minimum deal as your deep threat. I mean, so he like the rest of that wide receiver core, not named Wan'Dale Robinson. They're playing for a contract and they're playing for an opportunity to be on this team going into 2023.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I
You're
agree
right
with
about
you,
that.
man. Absolutely.
My take on as far as Slayton, I say keep him. It doesn't make sense to get rid of him.
Mm-mm.
He's counting what 2.5 mil against the cap, and you keep him around for maybe just death purposes. You know the drops. That's always going to be a topic of discussion no matter what. You know, can he put it together? Can he put it together? String it together for 2, 3, 4 games. Where he's basically providing us with catches and possibly touchdowns as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they don't see Slayton as, potentially part of this team going forward in the future, it's 2.5 mil against the cap. Let him stay, and at the end of the season, you let him walk. I guess it just all depends on where they see him in the whole scheme of things as far as where this team is going. And maybe it's just a mental thing with this kid at some point. It's got to be mental now, to where again, it's OTAs. I'd rather see him
Mm-hmm.
have drops there than actually in
Mm-hmm.
games,
Yep.
but it's got to be a mental issue with this kid, and somehow, some way, the wide receivers coaches, Dable, who knows, Kafka maybe, you know, get this kid's mind back to where it needs to be. Focused on playing good football. Maybe that's the issue that is going on right now. Maybe it's a lot of mental
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's going on with this kid that is just affecting his gameplay. And I get it is happening on season after season after season, but it's got to be a mental issue at this point.
I agree
Yep.
100% with you, Rodney. I think it definitely is a mental
Mm-hmm.
block for him. I mean, if you think about it, every time that ball is thrown in the air, he's going to think like he's going to keep second guessing himself, think he's going to drop it because he questions his hands, he questions his ability, sometimes even runs the wrong routes at times. I mean, if he's able to string together a couple of, like, 4, 5, 6 games where he doesn't have any drops, he runs the precise routes and he gets the job done, that confidence will start slowly coming back to him, and maybe he could not completely, but somewhat resemble the type of player he was when we first drafted him in the fifth round in 2019. That guy that will go out there. He can occasionally beat the one-on-one coverage and make those catches because in 2019 he wasn't dropping those balls as much compared to what he has been the past couple of years. And I mean, I think it was a coach that brought it up before. He was not being used properly.
Mm-hmm.
Slayton is not the type of wide receiver where you want to put over the middle or do any of those curl routes or anything. Slayton is a guy where you send him deep, let him beat
Mm-hmm.
the coverage up top, and just let him go and get the ball. That's it. That's what happened in the Washington game. Just went out there, ran over, went to go get the ball, touchdown. He's
Yep.
put in the right position for him. And I think that Dable will realize that kind of talent he has in Slayton, and he'll be able to run him on a little bit more go routes instead of these 3, 4, 5 yard curls where he has
Mm-hmm.
issues sometimes concentrating and catching the ball, and that hurts him at times when he even goes deep and drops those occasional balls, i.e. the Washington game. So
Yep.
I think the confidence is 100%. It's all mental with him with Slayton, and if he could string together a few good games, I think he'll be able to be that really good situational deep threat for us. Where that's what we'll need him to be. So
One
Definitely.
other
And
thing,
I agree.
um, you can use them also. If you guys remember, Shermer was using them a lot against the blitz and man coverage on with slants as well. That
Mm-hmm.
Jets game, he
oh
tore off
yeah.
like a 50-yard on a slant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, when the play breaks down and Daniel Jones buys time, it seems like Slayton's always the one that works his way to the sideline. So, no, he's not
Yeah.
just a guy. There is other ways you can use him. So, and it just seems like him and Daniel Jones, they always, if obviously we've been running curl routes the last 2 years, so nobody's
Mm-hmm.
really moving around. But it just seems like Slayton has
Exactly.
been the one guy who
Yeah.
Don't
actually
don't
works his
don't
way
even talk
around to the
about that,
sideline
Trey
and
Lance.
catches passes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
You made a great point. Replace the blitz. That's the perfect way to use him in the short or intermediate situation. But when he had success, it was always over the top. Just throw it up,
Definitely.
let him go get the ball, or as you just said, when DJ breaks the pocket, let him work to DJ. So.
Yep.
Definitely. Very good point there, Coach. Jaden asked a good question, and we got Mark asking a question for Coach. So let's start off with Jaden. Jaden says, "Who has more yards, Tony or Robinson?" Mm.
When
It's a
you
good
say
You know
more
question.
what?
yards, is this receiving yards or is this total yards?
That's a good question, Jaden. If you're still in the chat, definitely clarify that. But if we're gonna go off of total yards, I got to be honest with you guys. I think it's Robinson.
I think it's Robinson.
I really think it's Robinson. I mean, this
Hmm.
kid could come out the backfield. I mean, you look
Hmm.
at jet sweeps that he can do in the slot. I mean, there's a lot of things this kid could do, and I'm really excited to see how Dable and Kafka are going to get this guy rolling. Um, but yeah, I really think it's Robinson just due to the fact he can do so much.
I would tend to agree with you on that only because of what teams have seen of Kadarius
Darius
Tony
Slayton.
from last year. And I would agree with you on that point because if they want to pick and choose as far as, what Kadarius Tony can do, take a look at that Dallas game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With
Trey,
Mike Glennon.
okay,
Sorry.
exactly, with Mike Lennon. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you saw what he did to Trayvon Diggs. Now, Diggs was supposed to be this glorified prime time, mold of a cornerback, and he literally juked him out of his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, literally. So if teams are looking at past game film as far as Kadarius Tony is concerned, then you know what? I'll go with the Robinson scenario.
He
But
said
I can't.
he said receiving.
Yeah. Oh, receiving yards.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I
So
mean,
it's
Yes, I see
Tony.
here.
yeah.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
right here.
Yeah. So based off of that, I
It's
mean,
Tony.
Yep.
again, you saw what if the teams are
Mm-hmm.
watching what they did, last year with Kadarius Tony and how explosive he is. Just imagine if they're trying to lock him down, and then you get Wan'dale Robinson right there, and he
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
can do just as well, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in
Mm-hmm.
space as with Kadarius Tony. So, to me, it's a toss up, really. But if they lock down Tony, then I got to give it to Robinson.
It's tough.
If it's
Well,
You
let's
know
see
receiving
what he
what?
is
yard,
with the
if it's
gadget stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
receiving yards, I'm going with Tony. Because he's
Yep,
already
me
done
too.
it. So but if it's total yards, that's why I said total yards. Yeah, you could use so many different things, gadgets out the backfield. Even running the ball just to give a different look because he was a running back before. So, but receiving yards, I'm going with Tony. And Tony's hungry too because he wants that first NFL touchdown. So he's going to do everything he can to get in there.
Well, I think
Oh,
Tony's the
Perfect.
better in the screen game. Quick,
Mm.
quick pass screen game. I think Tony's a little bit more advanced than Wandale. So yeah, I'd say Tony for me as well, receiving.
Hmm.
I agree. I agree 100%.
I'm saying Tony too, and I would even go as far as saying all-purpose because I think Tony could do the same thing that Robinson could do. He could take it in the backfield. He was a running back at one point as well. He can go on the slant. He can go on the outside. Tony could do it all as well. And I mean, the real question is if Tony could stay healthy and on the field for majority of the games, I think Tony overall is the better player than Robinson. As good as Robinson has looked lately, I think Tony's upside is higher than Robinson. So if he
I
could
agree.
just stay on the field more consistently, I think Tony will have the not only the more receiving yards, I think he'll have the more all-purpose yards because you
Well,
could throw Tony everywhere on that field just like Robinson, and Tony's already proven what he could do.
that's true, Jeff. But think of his size. He could play on the outside. If you're the
Hmm.
coach, you really want Tony doing a lot of that gadget stuff when you got a guy who's maybe not as good, but you got Wandale who can do a lot of the same stuff. I don't know. I think if I was
They're going to
Dable, I would
interchange
just
them. I think they're going to
yeah. I
interchange
mean,
the both of
it's
them in and
possible. I
out
just
of
think a lot of
all
that.
over the place.
I just think a lot of that gadget stuff. I would kind of just give to Wandale. That's just
Don't
me
forget,
personally, though.
don't forget they probably will both be on the field at the same time. So
Yeah,
you'll
Exactly.
absolutely.
more than likely put Tony on the outside and put
Yep.
Wandell in the slot, unless you move Tony into the slot and put Wandell in the backfield to try and create mismatches. So but for the
Yep.
most part, they're both going to be on the field because Shep right now is we don't know if he's definitely going to start the season or if he's going to come back. What some reports said week 6. So I don't know.
Mm.
Yep. Jaden says Tony will have 1,200 receiving yards this year.
Ooh, ooh,
I'm
ooh.
telling you something, man.
I could see it.
If he could stay healthy, I could absolutely see that, man. And I think Dable and Kafka are very excited to use Kadarius Tony, man. I mean,
Hmm.
he could be used all over the field as well, but again, I would be stoked
I got a
if
hot
if
take
we
too
could get
later.
that.
I
No,
got a hot take
definitely.
as well.
Um,
Uh,
I what you thinking, man?
I got a hot take on this one. I think Kenny Galladay is going to be by the end of the season phased out of the offense because he doesn't fit in that offensive scheme compared to all these other guys. And I think Tony and Robinson will be the 1 and 2 receivers in terms of receptions, receiving yards, and maybe even touchdowns. I think Galladay might have more touchdowns because of his red zone threat, but I think that Galladay, as the season goes on, will eventually be phased more out because I just don't think he fits that system as well as the other two guys because he can't separate. And I just think that Robinson and Tony are going to be so electric. They're going to want these two on the field as much as possible, along with Barkley. And even Shep, if he gets back healthy and produces, he fits the system too. Shep could even can maybe get some more playing time and have three of those guys that you could throw them anywhere on the field, slot, outside, inside, backfield, doesn't matter. So I could think Robinson and Tony are going to be the 1 and 2 in terms of receptions and receiving yards by the end of the season, barring health. That's my hot take for the season.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to slightly disagree with you on that, Jeff. And the only reason why I say that is this: if you have Tony on that field, or you have Tony and Robinson on that field, they're going to have to account for him. Now, it all depends on who they have, whatever play they have drawn up. If Barkley's on the field, Tony, Robinson, and Galladay, it all depends on what the play is. But you have to be able to account for all four of those guys somehow, some way. So
Yep.
even if one or two are not on the field, I don't necessarily see them phasing Galladay out because, one, you're paying this guy $23-24 million a year. There's no way in the world I'm going to phase out my high price wide receiver, because to me, that's just a waste of money. So if I'm not using him for 50-50 balls and a red zone threat, I got to have him in that game, whether it be a decoy, to open up the game for maybe Tony or Robinson or even Barkley. But somehow, some way, you cannot forget Galladay. You just can't. And again, aside the money aside, the reason, again, when we saw how the scheme was last year, and they just literally underutilized Galladay in every facet of the game. Okay, I don't see that
Yeah.
happening this year with Kafka and Dable. They're going to literally they're going to scheme up for everybody. They're going to have plays designed for everybody. Galladay, Tony, Robinson, whatever the case may be. So I don't see them phasing him out. And again, just from the money standpoint, it's too much money to phase out a high price wide receiver like that. One who can be dynamic and make plays down the field where, if he's going up against a shorter cornerback, you damn right. I don't care how fast Galladay may or may not be. If there's a guy that is literally, if you don't have your number one corner on him, you got the number 2 or number 3, I'm throwing it up to Galladay and letting him go get it.
Definitely.
I just-
Galladay, I see when you said that, Jeff, you had me thinking and wondering. There were times that Galladay did line up in the slot last year. Not a lot, but there were times. Most of the times he is on the outside. He's playing, he usually line up at the X receiver. The reason why I say that is you're going to find more cornerbacks who are 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", as opposed to safeties who are 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet. So now that's a mismatch that you get, and it's right over the middle, direct line to DJ sometimes with his passes. You can scheme for him. You can create certain things. You're also finding out who the opposition, what type of defense do they run. If they're playing a lot of zones, Galladay will eat teams that play a lot of zone because he knows how to sit right into the windows, as opposed to a lot of teams that will play press and sit in his pocket. So now you got to throw the ball up to get him the ball. The other issue is the money. I don't think Mara and Tish are just going to say, yeah, just phase him out and pay him that kind of money. They're going to want to at least see a return on their investment somewhere, somehow, some way, and not just in the red zone. Now, you saying phase him out. Phase him out means that, for me, I'm going to try and work to eventually move everyone else up, and I'm going to move him down the line to possibly the number 4, number 5 receiver. I can't see that. I just can't see that.
I see him as a number 3, and when I said phase him out, I didn't mean phase him out of the offense completely. I mean, you're going to see, I think I could definitely see, the season goes on, Robinson and Tony be the 1 and 2, the 2 wide receiver sets the majority of the time because of their scheme fit. And I also, Galladay, yes, he is making a lot of money, but Joe Shane did not pay for him. he could easily be cut next year, and they could save a lot of that cap going into 2023. So that's the only reason why I mentioned it, that Golladay, he might be making a lot of money this year, but this GM did not pay that money for this receiver, who is, yes, he could put him in a slot. That's a great point, though, Coach. So you could put him in the slot. He couldn't get in the zones and sit down there and make those catches. He could even body some of the smaller safeties over the middle and, excuse me, make those catches. But he also was not paid by this current regime. He can be cut after the season. I don't think the money is as big of a deal. And say the Giants are not in – say the Giants are, 6 and let's just say 5-9 at this point going in towards the end of the season. And, they want to see more of some of these younger players. Galladay's going to be the guy that probably will take a back seat a little bit more, so you can see what Tony could bring, obviously see what Robinson could bring more, maybe some of these other young players on the team. You figure you're going to move on from Galladay at that point. I still think Galladay will have a good role on this team. I just think that I think if this offense gets as rolling as we think it might be, and just the versatility of Tony and Robinson, and even in a way Barkley and Shepard, I think Galladay could become targets could come a little bit less for him, and also because the chemistry with him and Jones just hasn't been there in the beginning, whereas the other receivers, I think Jones has had better chemistry with them. Even Robinson, OTAs, Robinson and Jones seem to be developing a pretty good chemistry so far. In practice, yeah, it's OTAs, but still, you could see it. So I think he'll still have a role in this offense, pretty sizable because of his contract, but I could easily see if Robinson is getting the job done and Tony, with how electric he could be, those two guys eventually are the 1 and 2s, and Galladay could be like that Amani Toomer / possession type receiver as the number 3.
Well,
listen, I'm as high as I don't know if you guys know, but I was probably higher on anybody in the country on Wan'dale Robinson. But we haven't seen him on the football field yet. Now, Kenny Galladay is a proven NFL wide receiver. He's had multiple seasons over 1,000, multiple seasons pushing 10 touchdowns. I don't think a lot of fans quite realize how awful this scheme was the last 2 years. And I think Galladay maybe he won't have, I don't think he'll have giant numbers, 1,500 receiving or something like that. But if he stays healthy, I think a lot of Giants fans' opinions will completely turn around on Galladay. Now, maybe that huge number will still, and the first year he was here, still keep fans on him a little bit. But as long as the effort is there, I think he's going to have a complete turnaround season. I could see him leading the team in touchdowns and receiving yards. Obviously he's not as dynamic as them other guys we're talking about, Jeffy, but I think they're going to be used in a different kind of way. And David would be a fool not to use them. At least force the ball to him somewhat to open up for others. Because that's a huge key. You need Galladay to open up all this underneath stuff for everybody else. Otherwise, this don't work. So, this offense is going to be shit, to be honest with you, if Galladay isn't involved, steady in the game plan every week.
Exactly.
So, I feel the complete opposite way about Galladay.
I think Barkley's going to be that guy that's going to open all it up.
Jeff, there's 2 things I wanted to touch on you, because you said, using Barkley, Robinson, Tony. Yes, there's only one ball, and we have so many right now considered playmakers. But now, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I know that last year's offense was an aberration. So right now, I'm saying Galladay is going to be their number 1. I understand about Dable and his system, but you know what Galladay has done in the past. And remember, he played in Detroit, so they didn't have a lot of the talent out there. Dable hasn't had his type of a talent before. He hasn't even had a back like Barkley. But he's smart enough to scheme ways to utilize them. So as a defensive coordinator, I'm saying right now I have to go into the season as Galladay's number 1. I have to do that. I can't, Robinson, I love him. I think he's going to be dynamic. I think he's going to do well with us. But right now he hasn't done anything. Tony, it's only 1 year, and he was injured for most of that 1 year. So Galladay, even though he was injured, he's had years to produce, which got him to where he is right now. So he's my number 1. I'm scheming for him first and foremost, which is going to open up the other guys, which will then let the defense to adjust, which will then open up for Galladay. So it's just a chess match. One hand is going to watch the other to make everyone better across the board.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, coach, you also got to, look at it from this standpoint. This is a new offensive system.
Mm-hmm.
No team has tape on this. No one.
Good point.
They do not know what the scheme is, how it's going to be employed, who's going to be on the field at any given time because this is brand new. So we actually have a really, really good advantage, as far as what we can sit there and do on the field against opposing defenses because they haven't seen it. Now, they may have seen bits and pieces from what Kafka brings from the Chiefs, what Dable brings from the Bills. They may have, you know, bits and pieces from that and okay, well, we have an idea of what those guys can do, but they don't know
Mhm.
what it is. So, again, I agree with you 100%, coach. Galladay is number one, and I don't see them phasing him out in any way, shape, or form, whether it's mid-season towards the end of the season if we're having a losing season and they want to see these young kids. I still don't think they're gonna phase him out. If there's a possibility of winning a game and Galladay can help you win that game, guess what, they're gonna go to him. So I just don't see it. I really, really don't see it.
And while I agree with the both of you guys that you do both of you guys make great points on that, I don't think Galladay is the number one receiver. It's Saquon Barkley. This offense is going through Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is that number one guy because he's playing receiver a lot too. Dable has been throwing him at receiver a whole hell of a lot. And I think when defenses look at the New York Giants going into this year, they are going to be scheming number one first, Saquon Barkley because of his ability on the outside, the way he can beat it on the slant, the way he can take it for 70 in the backfield. I think not Galladay. Saquon Barkley is that guy in that offense that they are going to be game planning, game in and out because of the way that kid is so dynamic and how he can be used all of it. But Galladay can be that second guy. I do agree with you guys, and maybe I'm just underselling what Galladay has done in the past because of it's a sour taste after what happened last year because I feel like he gave up on some plays that he could have made.
Mm-hmm.
Galladay has a good shot to turn it around. I'm hoping that he can. It's just I have to see him go out there and do it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think the system fit is a little bit tough for me to see him go out there and put out those big numbers like he has in the past because he's not the Kenny Galladay he was in 2018, 2019 when he was more healthy and he was putting up those numbers with Matt Stafford. Can he do it? Yes. Do I think he's going to do it? If I could see him get like 65 catches, 800, 900 yards, and about 7 or 8 touchdowns, I'll take that. I'll take that as a good season for Kenny Galladay. I just see Tony as that number one receiver, but I think Barkley is that number one guy on offense that teams are going to be scheming for game in and game out because of how much of a dynamic talent that kid is, and he's proven it too.
Well, I'll say this much, man. When you look at Wan'Dale, when you look at Tony, I'll be real. I mean, teams are going to look at that. They're going to look at Saquon. I think that Galladay could be one of those players that gets those one-on-one matchups. And personally, I love that because I think that he'll be able to take advantage of that. I think that if he could stay healthy, if especially with that hip, because he always seems to be dealing with the hip injury.
Mm-hmm.
If he can stay healthy, I mean, I think he could have a fairly solid season for us. I think that, you know, again, teams are going to be looking at Saquon, where is he on the field? Teams are going to be looking at Tony, where is he on the field? And I just think that Galladay is going to be that one that, he might slip open. Teams I feel like, and I agree with you, Coach. I think that Galladay could be our number one, and probably will be our number one, at least for this season. I don't think that Galladay is this scrub that some Giants fans kind of portray him to be. Again, that our last scheme that we was running offensively was horrible, beyond horrible, damn near
Mm-hmm.
prehistoric. So I think with the modern offense, with play callers like Dable and Kafka, I mean, I'm intrigued to see how they're going to scheme this guy open because you saw what he did over there in Detroit. A lot of times Matthew Stafford was injured over there, so they had their number twos out there. Sometimes the number three throwing Galladay the ball, and he was still making great catches. He was still
Yeah,
balling out on the field for Detroit, and I
you
mean
guys are absolutely right.
it's gonna come down, to again his health. I think it's gonna come down to, is DJ gonna have enough time behind this offensive line, which I think he will. Um, but I think he's gonna be that player that slips open, and we'll have those one-on-one matchups going forward for us. So it's possible. I see what you're saying though, Jeff, but I just think that you know he's an important player on this
Yeah.
offense.
I just think it's going to be Shep. Shep's going to be that guy if he can stay healthy. That's going to be the one that's going to slip through. Because I mean, everybody's still discounting if he, because he had the injury, they're discounting how he can still have a presence in this offense too. And he's always been relied on as that number one, number two receiver in the past. Now, when you have to account for Barkley, Galladay, Tony, and Robinson, good old Sterling Shepard, if he's there, takes over that slot receiver, and we know what he can do. I mean, when he's healthy and on that field, Shep can go for 100 any game. So he's that guy also, I think, that's going to take advantage of all those other guys getting the coverage. So, and even a Bellinger as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. And Mark, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for always stopping by. Tudo, thank you for stopping by. He says, massive
Tudo.
salute to Big Boss
Tudo.
Hit Squad and his crew. Drop by your office to pay our proper respects for all Giants fans around the world. Slapping kick all stinky boy losers out of the door. Forget about it. Tudo, my man,
Yo.
I hope that you're doing well,
Oh,
man. I
brother.
hope you guys ball out this season, man. Great job. I think that you're a really good leader. I love the comments that you be dropping me, updating me on what's going on with your league. So definitely appreciate you, boss. Thank you for stopping by. Now we're actually going to close this out here. We're at the hour and a half mark. I appreciate every single one of you guys in the chat stopping by.
Yeah, Hit
Jaden,
Squad, I got
Christopher,
something
Tony.
quick.
Yeah, sure.
Why don't we make it fun for everybody in the chat and for all of us on the panel? For the NBA Finals tonight, just throw it out there. Predictions, who wins the NBA Finals, how many games, and who is the NBA Finals MVP. Just for fun for everybody, since we have game one tonight.
I'll be quick with mine, man. I got Golden State game 6.
Uh, wow. My Nets aren't in it, so it
I
sucks.
know. I don't remind me. Don't remind me.
Yeah, we know
Please.
about that. We know our Nets are not.
We got 3 Nets fans on here. Don't remind us.
So this is what I'll say. I'm gonna go Boston game all the way last to 7. I'll go Boston at 7.
Damn. Okay.
Who's your
What
guys'
about you,
MVP?
Coach?
MVP. If it's Boston, I gotta go with Tatum.
For me, I gotta say Steph. I think Steph is about to ball out, man. Ball out. What do you think, Coach?
Golden State, 5 games. Steph Curry.
Ooh,
There you have
wow.
I like it.
Wow.
I like it.
This is going to be a short
like it.
series. I like that.
D-Mac says Warriors in 5. Damn, you ain't even giving them a chance.
Like seriously.
Mark the Blue Giant says, I got Warriors in game 7. Okay, so we see a lot of Warriors fans. Alrighty, I like that, man.
No,
So,
I'm not
I
a Warriors
got-
fan. I'm not a Warriors fan. Don't say that. Don't say
No,
that. Don't say that.
yeah. No, I mean, like, I meant,
I
like,
know. I know what you meant. I know what you meant.
But nah, man, nah. I can't
Coach
listen.
has got those
I'ma be
Warrior
honest with you.
pom-poms in the background.
I don't want either of them to win. I can't stand the Warriors and I can't stand
Yeah.
the Celtics. I honestly don't even want to watch it, but I really want to see what Steph's about to do because I think he's about to have a very, very good couple stretch, man. He's already balling out in the playoffs right now, so
Oh, yeah. I got Warriors in 7, and I'm going to go with a surprise MVP, Andrew Wiggins.
Jesus.
Andrew Wiggins will be the MVP.
Okay. Super Taj says Warriors in 6. Another Warrior. All right. You see, I think everyone here, outside of a couple of us, actually, let me just
Celtics
say,
are banged up. That's maybe
Big
why.
Blue. I mean, it's got to be the Warriors. It's got to
Hey,
be the Warriors.
now,
Thanks for
the reason-
stopping by, Blue City Empire.
The reason why I say that is because I am not a big fan of the Warriors. I'm not saying that Steph is overrated. I think he's an excellent basketball player. I just think that with what Boston has and what they can do as far as, you know, getting in sync and then literally just lighting it up from the 3 point line, if they can do that on a consistent basis, they can pull it out. I'm only, again, that's my prediction.
The
Celtics in seven.
defense.
Yeah.
I
The
don't like the
defense.
Celtics at all. Okay, ever since Larry Bird was there, I don't like the Celtics. But in this scenario, just watching both teams, if Boston can do what they did to Miami, I think it was game 2 or 3, where they were like literally lighting it up from 3 point line. Then if they can do that consistently, they're gonna give the Warriors a good run. So
Warriors
I'll
have
still
too.
go with Boston.
Warriors has too much offense for me, and they play
Hmm.
basketball the right way, fundamentally moving and looking for the open man. And
I
that's
agree.
why, as opposed to iso ball, which Boston plays well when you have that one player that you can take out of the game. You can't do that with Golden State. Hell,
Yeah,
what about Klay Thompson?
I
Hell,
agree.
heck, even Draymond from time to time. Draymond can step it up for a game and score from
Moody,
outs.
Looney,
Looney. I
Otto
mean,
Porter.
yeah. So they just have too much offense for me, and they can play defense.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down a lot to if Robert Williams and Marcus Smart's health. That they've had a lot. What's going on, Miz?
What's
They've had a
going
lot
on,
of
How
Miz?
you doing,
Is
Miz?
nicks and bruises, so you just got to wonder how healthy are they going into the season. I know they were questionable, but I think they're playing tonight. How healthy are those guys? And yeah, I just think, like Coach says, the Warriors have just too much firepower on that
Yeah.
offense. I mean, any one of those guys can go for 20 plus a game, and the Celtics are going to have a hard time guarding all those guys. I think it's the Warriors here.
Yeah.
so,
Definitely, man. Shit. But let us know your thoughts below, man. Again, you guys can find Giant Opinion Sports, Big Blue Corners, NYG Jeffy T, Coach Ed Gladney's links to their YouTube channels in the description below. I appreciate every single one of you guys that stopped by. This was a great stream. Coach, thank you for taking the time out of your day to stop by and talk some ball with us. Same to you,
always,
Jeff. You guys always
always.
Thank
make
you.
this show great. Thank you guys so much. Join the Hit Squad, and we will see you guys in the next video.